Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Plant-Based Besties. I'm Joey Troxel with the amazing Debbie Chu. Deb.
Woo! Applause. Round of applause. Okay.
Yeah. Deb, what do we
Well,
do in this podcast?
I don't know, but I think we're in goofy moods today. I can feel it. I think you're excited because you have a week off from work.
I do. It's about to start spring break. Lex is off too. The two of us sometimes it doesn't hit the same week. It's a week after each other, and sometimes it hits the same week. So it is hitting the same week, which is really nice. So, and it always makes him feel bad because like he'll be getting up and he's like, "You two guys are gonna do nothing all day," and we're like, "Yeah, that's it, right? Like that's what we're doing." I mean, really, no, I got to do taxes and I have a lot to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I am not getting up at 6:50 or 6:20. So
No, no alarm. No alarm this week.
no alarm. Yeah, I'm not living I don't live my life like that, Deb. You know what I'm saying? When on vacation, I get up when I get up, right?
That's right. Oh my God.
Well, if it's your first time here, this is where we talk about health and plant-based living and better ways to take care of yourself. As my students are like, "What is your podcast about?" And I'm like it's not going to work for them. They're on their teams. I'm like, it's about aging vegans, right? Like that's what it's about. And maybe not even so much veganism, but just aging and staying healthy, right?
Mhm.
Don't you think?
Longevity.
Yeah, longevity, right? And to them, like they can't even imagine themselves living to 40, right? Like
No, they're not our target audience, so it's okay. No.
no. So today's topic, Deb, something we've actually talked quite a bit about, is something that surprises a lot of people when they first hear about it. We're talking about something called skinny fat. Like, how is that possible? Is that a thing? Like, what does that mean, skinny fat, right?
Yeah, well, we're going to find out today. We're going to go into it. So, are you ready to jump in?
I'm ready to jump in. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Up front, we just want to say this isn't about body shaming or anything like that. It's a real thing, and I think, like right now, I think I'm skinny fat, and we're going to go into it too. Really, what it's going to be is about your body composition. You know, how much body fat you have, and even if you're at a healthy weight and you have a high body percent, it can be detrimental to your health. So it's important to be aware of that.
Yeah, exactly. So you can look like height, weight proportionate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or be within the normal range on some chart and still have, like, if you don't have a good metabolic, speed and all that, you could still be packing on fat. You may just have less muscle, right? And have you ever seen those pictures where this person's 6'2" and 230 pounds, and this person's 6'2" and 30 pounds? And the one is really muscular, and the one on the right is kind of obese, right? And you're like, how are they both 6'2" and 230 pounds? It really has to do with your body composition, like you just said.
So today we're going to break it all down. I'm going to read off my notes so I don't forget anything.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about what skinny fat actually means, the signs that you might have it, how you can measure it, the health consequences, and more importantly, what you can do to improve it.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to talk about so obviously because it's a vegan podcast, we're going to talk about how plant-based lifestyle, can play a role in fixing this issue if you have it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that if you're on any other kind of diet, you can fix it. It's not just plant-based, right. But since we're plant-based, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
All right. So Deb, when people hear the phrase skinny fat, it sounds contradictory, like jumbo shrimp, right? Jumbo vegan shrimp, of course. What's the deal with that?
So a lot of people also develop skinny fat after years of dieting without exercise.
Yeah, I think, they lose weight, but the body loses muscle along with fat, which lowers the metabolism and changes body composition. You and I had to learn this, right?
Yeah.
We had to learn the reason we focused on increasing protein was to protect our muscle that we already have during weight loss, during fat loss, and muscle. The more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism is. It's one of the issues I have as a short person because I'm small. There's only so many places to put muscle, so I'm never going to have the metabolism that like you or Tim have, right? Who are much taller. So absolutely for sure.
Yeah. And another big factor is, the modern lifestyle. We just do so much sitting. We're not meant to just sit all day. We sit at work, when we're driving, you're on the computer, especially if you're a person that works at home and you're just working on your computer. So that's another big factor.
Yeah, technically you may weigh 140 pounds, but if you're sitting around all day or whatever, and a large percent of that, if that's fat, instead of muscle, then you're going to start having a problem with all that.
Definitely. So let's talk about some common signs.
Yeah. One big one is being within a normal weight range, but having very little muscle definition. Over the last 2.5 years, I've only lost like 22 pounds, which isn't a lot if you tell someone, but since I'm so small, it's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like I just losing the fat around my muscles made my muscles look so much bigger, right? I think I've only gained 4 pounds of muscle in the last 2.5 years. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
a lot because I'm not bulking, but getting rid of that fat, right, makes me look like I have more muscle definition. So if you don't have any muscle definition and you're within a normal body range, might be a good sign that you might have skinny fat.
Right. And another sign is fat is concentrated around your stomach, even if the rest of your body appears thin.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to say that probably happens anyway, because as I'm losing body fat, that stomach is the last to go, right?
Yeah. And I've heard that that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
literally hanging on for dear life with its paws, and it's like, I ain't going, right? So, but I mean, if you're losing it everywhere else, that's normal. So you might also notice low strength levels, right?
Yep. Yeah, like you're struggling with basic body weight exercises, feeling weak, or getting tired quickly.
Yep, for sure. Another sign is poor metabolic health markers. Even though your BMI looks fine, like your metabolism isn't performing the way, it's not burning up fat and calories the way it should.
Yeah, and some of those markers would be high cholesterol, elevated blood sugar, and insulin resistance.
Yeah, for sure. Some people are noticing that they feel sluggish or they have low energy, even though they're not technically overweight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes people say things like, I'm thin, but I just don't feel healthy. That's a clue that your body composition might be the issue.
The composition, Deb, is everything. We both are sponsored by Hume Body Pod, and I swear those numbers, seeing them every day, really
Mm-hmm.
help me make better decisions and know if I'm going in the right direction or not. You
Yeah.
can't just use a scale because you just don't know. What does that number mean? Is that fat? Is that muscle? What is that number? Right. So
Right.
you kind of have to be smart about this.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, which leads us in to how do you measure skinny fat? Well, the scale, like I just said, the scale doesn't tell it alone. You really need to know, like, what is your percent of muscle of that body weight? What's the percentage of fat? What's the percentage of water you're carrying around? How much of that, that fat is subcutaneous? How much of that is visceral? Like, depending on where that is, you may have a bigger problem or smaller problem than you think, right?
So for your body fat percentage, the ranges can vary. So for men, it's about 10 to 20%, women, 18 to 28% body fat. If I get to 28, I'd be so happy.
And the older you are, like older people hold a little more fat too, and it's normal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if someone's within a normal weight, like and it has a much higher body fat percentage, that's a strong indicator that you're probably skinny fat.
Right. And there's several ways to measure body fat. You can get a DEXA scan, and you can do like bioelectrical impedance scales, which is like the Hume, right?
Right. That's exactly right.
Okay. Caliper measurements, which I don't know how accurate they are,
Right.
but and a lot of gyms you can do fitness testing at your gym.
For sure. The place that we have has InBody. I mean, a bunch of places have that. You just go up to the trainer and ask them about that, and they'll set you up. They'll do that for free just so they can give you a 10-minute spiel about why you should buy their training. So, and you can always say no to that. Or yes, if you need it. I, at one point, said yes, and it changed my life. So, another useful measurement is waist circumference. I mean, I thought I looked good before I started to lose weight, and I had a 36 waist. And I'm like, I'm 5'2". I shouldn't have a 36 waist, right? But everyone's like, no, you look fine, right? And I wasn't skinny fat; I was fat. But like if your waist is bigger than it's supposed to be, then that's a good indicator for sure.
Right. Yeah. And excess belly fat is linked to higher risk for metabolic diseases.
Well, yeah, because the fat, you don't have a decent metabolic rate for sure. And metabolic
Right.
diseases is just, I mean, once you start down that path, it's hard to get off that.
Yep.
Also, a third indicator is strength and fitness level. I mean, if you're not carrying that extra fat around, you should be able to have a lot more energy to do, the things that you need to do, play with your kids and to do some running and to do any of that stuff. You shouldn't feel tired all the time.
Yeah. And if someone has like very low muscle strength, it often correlates with low muscle mass. So
Yeah,
that's something to think about as well.
yeah, for sure. One of the things we should probably talk about is what are the health consequences of this, right? Like we've looked at
Hmm.
the signs and how to tell. And we've talked a little bit about, metabolic issues. But now that this part here, I don't know if people realize skinny fat is just not a cosmetic thing. It isn't, well, I'm skinny fat, right? There are
Hmm.
some issues, right?
Yeah, it can be many of the same health risk as obesity.
Which is hard to believe. And
Hmm.
maybe even like it's just as bad and maybe even worse because you don't know you have it, right? Obese
Right.
people know they're like, I have a problem here and I have to make a change, right? But skinny
Hmm.
fat people may not realize they have a problem, so they ain't making a change. And it never occurs to them. So there's a lot of risks to having, to being in a position of skinny fat. One, insulin resistance, that's going to
Hmm.
be a huge problem. Type 2 diabetes, right? Uh, Cardiovascular disease, fatty liver disease.
Hmm.
The list goes on and on. And I mean, this is for someone who doesn't look overweight, but is carrying all that extra fat.
Right. It's the visceral fat that's stored around your organs. That's especially dangerous.
And it's nice because the visceral fat is an indicator on the Hume app. So I don't I never really looked at it, but it's there, and I'm not skinny fat, but my number is pretty low. But I know other people who have the app, and to them that's everything. They're looking at that number and they're trying to get it down.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's nice that information. There was a time, Deb, when 10 years ago, information like what's your visceral fat was not available to you, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you had to go to it, some place like with a DEXA scan. But now, you can buy a scale for $200 and it's absolutely available too. That tells you all of these things, all of these
Hmm.
markers, right?
Yeah, we love it.
Um, yeah, for sure. And people who are skinny fat often have higher inflammation levels and poorer metabolic health. We talked about that, but the higher inflammation levels, like people walking
Hmm.
around inflamed.
Right. And if you have any autoimmune conditions, that inflammation is just detrimental. Yeah. Um, and another issue is lower metabolic rate because muscle burns more calories than fat, like you said before.
Yep. Yeah, you have to learn that. When you're a short person, you really have to learn that. So when muscle mass is low, right? When you don't have, or if you don't have a lot of place to store muscle like me, because I'm so short, the body burns fewer calories at rest. And that's
Hmm.
apparent. That was the reason why watching what people ate and duplicating their diets didn't work for me, because my metabolic rate was only like 1,200 calories a day, where theirs was 25 or 26.
Hmm.
So they ate
Yeah.
2,000 calories, lost weight. I ate 2,000 calories and put on weight. And all of that has to do with how much muscle you're carrying. That's where it really comes from. And some of us just don't have enough body areas because we're small to put that muscle on. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And that makes it easier to gain fat over
Oh
time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're not burning calories, it sure does.
Yeah.
So again, it isn't about appearance. Skinny fat really is about long-term health.
Yeah. Because if that was true, because I do not look overweight, but my body fat percentage is too high for someone of my height, weight, and age. So that's like one of my main goals right now.
Yeah. Well, the goal is to reduce body fat and increase muscle mass. I have tried to tell people in my videos, I don't try and lose weight. Like that's why the scale itself, without getting a smart scale, doesn't work. It just gives you a number. If you lose, some fat and then gain some muscle at the same time, your weight didn't go down, but you're much healthier, right?
Hmm.
So, but you look at the scale and go, oh, nothing I did worked. I'm just going to give up, right?
Yeah.
So you really have to focus on losing fat, not weight.
Right. And the first big change is strength training.
Hmm.
You and I both know that.
Absolutely. Without the resistance training, you can't build muscle. So lifting weights, doing resistance exercise, they all help build muscle. And having muscle not only improves body composition, but it improves your metabolism.
Right. And even if you're a beginner, like you've never lifted weights in your life, there's other things you can do. You can use your own body. You could do push-ups. You could do squats. You can use resistance bands or just start with light dumbbells and then work your way up.
Yeah, for sure. On YouTube, I watch these guys. I watch this guy Tim Gert on YouTube. He's one of those calisthenics people, Deb, right? You know, the kind that can hold his whole body up with one
Yeah,
finger and be perfectly level with the floor, and you're like, come on, right? But there's no weight, right? It's just his body that he's doing all this, and I'm always floored, like,
yeah,
holy
they're
smoke!
so strong.
Oh my gosh. And I know they had to work up to that. Like, I'm not watching the beginner version, but you don't need all of this. You don't need a gym. You could use your body weight for sure. The other thing,
Exactly.
and then nutrition's a big part of this. Like, muscle is built and fat is lost. Fat is lost in the kitchen. Muscle's built in
Hmm.
the gym. But people are like, oh, my diet's horrible, but I'm going to the gym. Well, then you're going to be muscular, but you're still going to be overweight because, fat is lost in the kitchen.
Right, right. Yeah, and whole food plant-based are naturally high in fiber and nutrients while being lower in those unhealthy fats and, all the ultra processed ingredients.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is where we tie in the whole food, or at least the vegan option to this.
Yeah.
You having, even though we're not doing the starch solution anymore, it was a very low fat diet, and the fat you eat really is the fat you wear. I still believe that, right?
Hmm.
So having whole foods, or at least primarily whole food and a more plant based diet, is really going to help you with all that, right?
Right. And I think we've kind of moved, we definitely have moved away from like the starch solution
Yes.
kind of. And I don't know about you, but occasionally I will use a little bit of oil here and
Yeah.
there. I'm not like scared to death of it like I used to
Exactly.
be. Yeah.
I'm not either.
So some of the great foods for building muscle and improving your metabolism include beans, of course, lentils, tofu, tempeh, quinoa, nuts and seeds, leafy greens, and seitan too if you don't have a problem with gluten.
I love seitan. To
Yeah,
me, that's the biggest primary protein source you can have.
I
So
know. You're so
uh,
lucky you can eat
I know
it.
for the lower calories and the higher protein it gives you, there's
Yeah,
nothing better.
yeah,
Protein's important, right? I mean, you and I focus on protein, we push protein, but really, overall diet quality is really where it's at.
right. And not that we're pushing protein to be like super high. We're just like adequate protein for
Yep,
what your goals are.
sure.
Yeah. So another big factor is just moving throughout the day. You know, even if you're sitting at your computer, set a timer, get up every hour, and just walk around for a couple minutes. All that adds up.
So Deb, right now, I'm a teacher. So right now I have a standing desk.
Hmm.
And I don't even have a chair. That one of the students is using my teacher chair. So I'm standing up all day. And I'm walking around. But before that, when I was a stay-at-home dad, I would do my laundry and I'd fold one pair of socks and I'd walk across the house and put it in the drawer and come back. And then I'd take another pair of socks out of the basket and fold one. And this is what I would do all day long. And my family would be like, just do them all at once and put them all away in one shot. And I'm like, no, getting my steps, right? And I
Yeah.
would make it work like that, because I didn't want to go outside. It was 110 degrees out, right? But, that's how I would get my movement. So you don't even need like to go running. Like I ain't getting up 6 a.m. and running, but
Right.
you got the movement, and the movement throughout the day, that's everything.
Yeah. And like they tell you, park at the farthest parking
Yeah,
spot. So that all that adds up.
it
Yeah.
all adds up for sure.
Yeah. And another huge one that people kind of neglect is sleep and stress management. That matters so much, because your hormones affect fat storage. And if you're not getting enough rest, if you're all stressed out, then that's just going to disrupt your hormones. And yeah, it starts a whole chain of events.
Yeah, sleep so big. It is,
Yeah.
diet, exercise, and sleep. Without the sleep, the other two are really going to have to work so much harder. You could literally
Hmm.
undo everything without enough sleep because that's when you heal and grow. So I still have a problem with that. I'm exhausted at 9 p.m. I get in bed. Then at 11 p.m. I'm trying to solve problems of the world, right? And I'm like, listen, I was just exhausted. Why aren't I sleeping, right? It's so
Yeah.
stupid. But
Yeah.
like that's probably the place I have to work the hardest. So the big formula here is you've got strength training, you've got whole foods, you've got daily movement, and you need good sleep.
Yeah. And the key thing is consistency, not perfection.
Yeah. So right, exactly. And we say this all the time. I think every
Yeah.
YouTuber who's worth following says this, right? Just because you don't get it right once, you don't give it all up. You're just like, all right, I'm gonna pick it up again the next meal or tomorrow, right?
Yeah, because there's no such thing as being perfect. So it's going to happen. Just do your best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's our topic today. We've covered what skinny fat is, how to recognize it, and how to start fixing it.
Yeah. And remember, the scale doesn't tell the whole story. What really matters is building a strong and healthy body.
Yeah, and the great news is the small habits can make a huge difference over time. Just pick one thing and start making a change.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's our show for today, and I hope you guys learned something, or at least made you think. And you can do your own research, and you can absolutely just follow me and Joey because we are trying to live that lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. Leave a comment if you're watching the YouTube video, and if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please, please, please leave us a 5-star review if you like the show, so we can bring you more episodes. And please, out there, everyone, stay healthy and take care of yourselves. Right?
Yeah, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.